Hey there! I wanted to talk to you about the different flasks that came with my RaidLight vest and what I'm using in my RaidLight vest. In the last video I did mention I was using a Salomon flask instead of the RaidLight Flask, and so I wanted to talk to you a little bit about how I got here and how I decided to use a Salomon flask. Just first off, a little history lesson. I bought my RaidLight Revolutive pack in 2019, July of 2019. And when I bought that, RaidLight was under Rossignol Group, and they had a USA distribution center. And they had just come out with the recently revamped Revolutive, and it was sold out of the US distribution center. And that one came with these flasks right here. Just a pretty simple flask. It doesn't say it's made by Hydro Flask, but it seems very similar to all the Hydro Flasks I've seen from everyone else. So this particular flask came with a long straw setup with the cover for the weather cover, and then the square bottom. With these little edges, it made it really hard to put the flask in the front stretchy pouch. Like, all these corners kept getting stuck on everything. I ran a couple of trail races with these. I did end up putting some KT tape on these corners here so that they would slide in and out way easier. And that got me by for a little bit. The second problem I had with these flasks is that the lids were unbelievably fiddly. I felt like I could never get the threads right. I could never get it to seal right. Whether or not all my tailwind was going to stay in here was like a mystery. I would fill them, I would put them in like cups for transit, and then when I put it in my vest, I was just like, pray to God I got it right. And then if I had to refill it on the trail, they were even more fiddly than that, because once you're on the trail, if you've been out there for a while, you lose some dexterity in your hands. Maybe you're asking the really nice person at the aid station to help you out. And it just led to all kinds of pain. I got to the point where we started this practice with these RaidLight bottles, and we've actually extended this practice to all of our bottles from here on. But I basically ended up color coding all the lids for every one of my flasks with their matching lids. So like this one, I have 2 dots in the RaidLight symbol, and we also have 2 dots on the lid. So this lid goes with this flask. It seems like once you put them on, like once you do it the first time, if you use a different lid, like the lid for the other one, it doesn't thread the same and it just doesn't stay closed. So things were always leaking out of here. I had myself as an aid station worker at the Rocky 100. There was one person who came through the aid station with a RaidLight vest, and I just walked up to him and I was like, give me those, because I'm the only one who's going to be able to figure this out. And then my crew, when I was doing kind of like a homemade Ironman during the COVID pandemic, I was using these same bottles, and my crew freaking hated me. They were like, we can't get these to stay. They're always leaking. I hate them. So this was the biggest problem with the RaidLight flasks. The one thing that I really do like, and I'll show you some measurements in a little bit, is that the lid, the opening here is much bigger, so it's a lot easier to like dump a scoop of tailwind in there if you're at when you're at home, like doing your bottles, or if you happen to have the big bag and you're trying to fit, like, you know, protein powder or Endurox or whatever you're trying to fit in there. The hole is just the mouth is so much bigger on these than on the Salomons. It's like so much easier. I almost never had to use a funnel with the RaidLight ones, and I almost always have to use a funnel with the Salomon ones. So this was the one I got in 2019 with the square bottom. In late 2019, I ran a race, and some stuff happened with my vest. One of my free lock wheels just suddenly stopped engaging or disengaging. It was just like permanently stuck in position. Even though I tried the little, they give you a little tool to try and undo them. But it was basically, it was like defective, the free lock. And then also inside the backpack part, there's a little Velcro hanger for the water bladder, and that had come unstitched from the actual backpack. And so I contacted RaidLight Warranty. They're still owned by Rossignol now. And so I sent that back in 2020. And I was told at the time that they've slightly updated several pieces and several features of the vest. And so the vest that I received back would be a new one of this newer 2020 model. And there would be a couple things that would be different. Well, one of the things that was different is the flask. Here I got, this is the 2020 model flask I got from RaidLight. This one looks extremely similar now to every Hydro Flask I think I've ever seen. Again, there's no Hydro Flask branding on here, just the RaidLight branding. Again, it has the wide mouth. Love the wide mouth. And now we've gotten rid of that square bottom. So I no longer had that problem of trying, when it was full of liquid, trying to shove it into my vest and having all the corners getting stuck on the way down in the front pockets. The lids, unfortunately, ended up being just as fiddly as the other lids. I never actually used this bottle. I used the other one that came with it, and I had this, they leaked right away, and I was like, nope, we're not doing that. So that was kind of a bummer about why I don't really like the RaidLight bottles. Cool things about the RaidLight bottles is they automatically come with the longer straw. They come with the temperature protector here. There is a little clip, and I'll see if I can grab it from the current RaidLight website that shows that you can actually convert this very easily by taking the nozzle off, taking the straw out, and putting the nozzle back on the lid, and converting from long straw to short straw. So I thought that was really cool, and I actually learned that when I was looking up some stuff for this video. Just for reference, both of these RaidLight flasks are the 600 milliliter flasks, whether it's the flat one from 2020 or the square one from 2019. They're both the 600 milliliter flasks. And so that's kind of what I know about the RaidLight flasks. Now, like I said, I was doing some research and I have found out that since the time when I bought my RaidLight vest and sent it in 2020, during 2020, Rossignol actually sold RaidLight back to the gentleman who founded RaidLight, and his name is French, and I'm going to try and get it right. It's Benoit Laval. And so we are now back out of the Rossignol group, back to RaidLight, the guy who invented RaidLight in the first place, and it's back to him. The only bummer for that is I'm based in the United States, and now there's no U.S. distribution center for RaidLight. I was on their website. There is no U.S. website right now. All the prices are in euro, and shipping to the U.S. is going to be real expensive. All right, so since I ran into that parts problem, I started looking at what is plentiful in my area. I am based in Austin, Texas. I can find Salomon gear, I think, almost anywhere. It just seems like Salomon is really easy for me to get here without having to order anything online. Also, my husband, he has purchased the Salomon ADV 12L 12-liter pack, and we also have a Salomon ADV 5-liter pack. So we have, you know, kind of this interesting array of packs for running and training on the trails. And so we have a lot of Salomon flasks right now. Generally what we have now for our loadout is we have the Salomon Speed Flask, 500 milliliter Speed Flask. It's a little bit smaller than the RaidLight Flasks. So the RaidLight Flasks are 600. These are, of course, made by Hydro Pack. Salomon, you can see my 2 dots on here, match the 2 dots on the lid so that I know that this lid goes with this flask. So this is the Speed Flask from Salomon. And then we also have just a regular Salomon Soft Flask. In the video that I did before, I said I had the Salomon Soft Flask, this one, and not the Speed Flask with the hard bottom. So there you go. I find that this Salomon flask without the regular Soft Flask, also 500 milliliters, I forgot to say that, regular Speed Flask does go in the front pocket of the RaidLight vest fairly well. When I'm wearing either the ADV, the Salomon ADV 12 or ADV 5, because I have some landscape in the way, kind of a joke with the boobs there. It does take a little bit of finagling for me to get these in the pouch, no matter whether I'm wearing the Salomon vest, either Salomon vest or the RaidLight vest. My husband said that the ADV5, the bottles don't go in near as smoothly as they do on the ADV12. Kind of makes sense. The 5 is a smaller pack than the 12. For him, like the ADV12, he can just open the pocket and like drop these right in. Same with this flask. He can just open the pocket and drop this right in. I don't get that luxury. I don't necessarily like the Speed Flask because they don't empty all the way and then they don't collapse really good. You always end up with like some amount of liquid down here in the bottom, and then you have to like blow it up and tip it upside down to get it all out. And even when you collapse it all the way and take all the air out of it, it still always has this kind of weird shape, and that can get uncomfortable depending on where you choose to stash it. So here I'll just put this together so you can see. But yeah, that's just kind of the best it'll compress. And then this always has some spare liquid in the bottom. It's not optimal. Here I have an X on my Salomon symbol, and I have an X here on my lid. I'll talk about the rest of this lid in a second. Then you can see how this one collapses. That one collapses a lot flatter. I mean, there's like nothing left. This fully empties. So I actually prefer this one over the Speed Flask, and also since the Speed Flask doesn't really get me anything, you know, it's just as hard for me to put the Speed Flask in any of my vests, whether it's Salomon vest or the RaidLight vest, because I have to work around the boobs. I just use the Soft Flask, and then he can use the Speed Flask because he could just boop, drops them right in. The one thing I really liked about the RaidLight Flasks was that they all came with these long straws. So this is like, it exactly came like this. And I loved it. And so for Christmas, I ended up getting the Salomon long straws. And by long, they are giant. They're really long, and you're supposed to cut them to whatever size you want. So I used this little RaidLight protector here from one of mine so that I knew how high to make the straws, because I really like the height of where the RaidLight straws, when they're in the pack, like where they sit. I really like them. So I just wanted to make sure to try to get the Salomon one as close as possible, because the RaidLight has kind of that angle on their straw valve. It's a little bit taller. We cut them a little bit taller, but they fit in the vest really good underneath the little straw. So that's what I have here. So I have now, generally what I'm using is, in my RaidLight vest, Salomon Soft Flask 42. So this is a 500 milliliter made by Hydro Pack, with Salomon lid with the Salomon long straws, but just my little RaidLight weather protector on the straw there. And really the only reason it's on there is so that I had the height right. That's the only reason when I cut the straws. I want to make sure I got it right. And then the other thing, of course, that's super important with the Salomon, like I mentioned the water thing earlier, I have this. I keep it in a Ziploc bag, little Ziploc bag, boom, in my backpack. And if I need to filter water, I can just fill this guy with water, put this on here, because it's from Salomon, sip directly, no worries. So I'd be good. Of course, once I do that, I would not put anything else in this until I've disinfected it. But if I was running on the trail in the summer and water was hard to get to, or I was running anywhere where I needed to filter some water, I have this option as well with Salomon. And if I had just the RaidLight, I don't have a similar thing for the RaidLight one, so I would have to have like a Life straw or some other filtration system, backpack filtration system. And so that's really pretty much everything I have to say about flasks today.